Hi, good morning. This is Gerald M. Kilby here, author of Colony Mars and the Belt series of sci-fi novels. And I'm just doing a quick video just to kind of say thank you to everybody for sending me all the emails. Really appreciate them. They mean a lot to me, and I try and answer as many of them as I can. Um, so please forgive me if you've sent me an email and I, I haven't replied to it. Sometimes they can get lost in the sea of stuff that comes into me on a daily basis. Um, that said, what I decided to do was maybe have a look at some of the questions that people have been sending in. What's interesting is the sort of questions I get asked about the books and the series, um, and the fact that some of them are fairly similar. It's the same question that keeps popping up, and one of the questions that keeps popping up a lot is, what does Gizmo look like? Um, which is an interesting question because, I mean, considering Gizmo is a robot, um, and there's so many robots in sci-fi history that it could look like anything in a sense. But I do give a lot of clues in the first book as to what it actually looks like. Um, so the first thing I want to say is that, and this is the short answer, I will get to the long answer, is that it looks like whatever you think it looks like. And that may seem like a bit of a get out clause, but what I try and do, or what I like about books, there's a kind of a little cinema screen in your head that picks up on the clues that are given in the story, and you begin to visualize, the characters, you visualize the scene, the places, and that becomes your personal kind of vision of what the story is and what's going on. And I think you find sometimes that, when a book gets made into a movie, that a lot of times people can be very disappointed because what they had in their head, or what they imagined the characters to look like or the scene to look like, is not how the director of the movie sees it. And therein lies the problem with sort of bringing books to movies. um, but it also is one of the great things about books, because your your kind of vision, or how you see, say, the Colony Mars series, is probably different to mine, and it's different to a whole lot of other people's. Um, but it's yours. It's your vision of it, and that's what I kind of like about books. Because when you write the story and you put it out there, you're essentially giving it to everybody, and it has a life of its own. Um, and people can take ownership of it. And what I try and do in a lot of the stories is not give too much detail, um, around what people look like, or even what the places look like, because I give a kind of a sketch, enough to get a kind of a visual image, but then I let or try and let the reader's imagination fill in the blanks, and you can take ownership of the story. Um, at least I try and do that, you know. And what I also try and do is make sure that I don't make a mistake somewhere later on in the second or third or fourth book, where I'm putting in a character trait, or a hair color that kind of disrupts that vision that the reader may have in their mind. Um, so you may be reading and go, oh, they got curly frizzy hair, and then by book three you go, no, it's really red hair they've got. I try and avoid that as much as I can. Um, but that's the thing I like about stories, because as opposed to movies, because when you read a book, you really can immerse yourself in that world that the writer creates, and that you then augment and develop in your own mind as to what the characters and scene and world is. But to answer the question about what a gizmo looked like, I think I gave most of the detailed information of that, and probably in the first book, Colony Mars 1. That scene where Mia or Nils comes out of the kind of hiding place, and Gizmo's in behind him, and he does the greetings earthling thing. So the sort of idea for the robot in that was, well, okay, to be something that this guy Nils kind of knocked together out of spare parts type of thing. So it's not going to be, you know, it's not going to be the character in iRobot, which is a very sophisticated looking machine.
What am I? Can I help you, sir?
So it has tracked wheels, so it's a bit like Wally, I suppose, in that sense, but not as banged up or as small or as quirky as that. The other kind of robot I kind of had in my mind when I was writing it was there's a movie, I think it was the 80s, called Short Circuit, and there was a kind of a tracked wheeled robot thing. I can't remember, it's number 5, I think might have been the name of the robot. So that sort of a thing I had in mind, but bigger maybe, or more robust. Just getting back to the idea that it is kind of what it is in your own mind. Here's a drawing that my daughter did for me as a present. So this is kind of how she kind of visualized Gizmo. The other sort of character trait, I sort of, that Bad Robot logo, I think, the movie production company. I kind of like that kind of quirky, cheeky sort of thing. So anyway, that'll give you kind of some clues as to what I think Gizmo actually looks like. So in other news, as they say, what am I up to at the moment? Well, I'm nearly finished the 5th book in Colony Mars series, which is called Surface Tension. I'm about 2,000 words off the first draft, so that's kind of the story written and done, which is just wonderful to get there. It proved to be a bit more complicated than I had envisaged, because when I get into these things, I just, my mind sees all sorts of different possibilities and scenarios, and I every time I'm sort of writing a part of it, I'm thinking about how that affects the story as a whole, and how that references certain things that might be going on in the world at the moment. Anyway, that's going to be finished probably this week, and then I shall get into the edit. I basically print the whole thing out, hard copy, and then I go through it with the pen, this actual pen, I think, green, and I start making notes, but most of it is thereabouts. So I get into the second draft. It's called the second draft then, and I make kind of story changes, so by the time I finish the first draft, I kind of know what the story is about, and who the main thrust of the story and the theme, and then I go back and I kind of massage my earlier stuff then into what I think the theme is, and then it goes for a third, so that's probably going to be about another 2 weeks, and then I go for a third draft, which is kind of tidying up all the sentence structure, polishing really, and then it goes for a fourth draft, and then it goes for a copy edit, and then it goes for proofing, and then it should hit the shelves, so to speak. So earliest probably what are we, April now? Maybe mid to late May, probably late May, I'd say, is when I should get it out. Anyway, I'll let you go. Thanks for watching, and I'll if you like this sort of stuff, just pop me an email. I'll put a link in the they do this in YouTube videos, don't they? I'll down below, or just go onto my website, geraldmkilby.com, and send me a message. Ask me any questions you like. Happy to answer them, and I might even answer them in this kind of visual YouTube format, which is good. I kind of like this, I'm one of these people that I don't particularly like emailing. I know a lot of authors they will do email newsletters, and I feel like I'm bothering people if I'm sending them out emails. And maybe some people want to be bothered. I don't know. I'm just very, maybe I'm just very polite person. So I prefer to do it this way. It's a good way of answering questions and letting you know what I'm up to. And then if people want to tune in, that's fine. They can. And if they don't want to, that's fine too. I don't have a problem. Okay, bye for now. See you next time.